Kia ora, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're just going to let everyone come in, so we'll probably wait a couple of minutes before we kick off. And I'll probably say that again in another minute as well. So don't be weirded out by the silence. We're just letting everyone in. Got no jokes lined up, sorry. Got a few more people still coming in. It's a big group today. How are we looking at? Okay. Well, we'll let people in as they join, and but I'm going to kick us off. So kia ora tātou, and welcome to this webinar on building the numbers. It's the fun stuff, budgets and financial reports. Woohoo! So thanks for joining us today. Let's gather our thoughts and begin our hui with karakia. Mōri oho, mōri tū, mōri ora kia tātou, homie, hui, taiki. Kia ora, ko Hannah aho, and I'll be one of your co-hosts for this session alongside Eva and Simone. Before we begin, some meeting tikanga for you. There might be a few dings along the way, that's us letting people in. The presentation today itself will last about 20 to 25 minutes. Don't feel you need to take notes, as we will be recording the presentation and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel afterwards. So if you've missed the first couple of minutes as you're coming in, again, don't worry, the whole thing is recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Your mics and cameras are automatically off, so don't worry if you are taking this opportunity to have your lunch. Chat is also turned off, so we won't get distracted, but you're welcome to pop any questions into the Q&A. So there's a Q&A button along the top there. If we can, we'll answer them as we go, but we're also holding a live Q&A session on Thursday from 12 to 12:45 p.m. So register for that the same way you registered for this webinar, and we'll drop a link in the Q&A. You can also email any questions you have to kōrero.mai@creativenzd.govt.nz. If you'd like to speak with an advisor, you can use the link in the Q&A to book some time. Please make sure you read through the content on our website and watch the other webinars on YouTube first, and that's just so that we can make the most of our time together. Okay, so what we'll cover today. Before we get into things, I want to let you know that we've just published some clarifying information about budget requirements for the AOG on our website. This is essentially what we'll cover today. For those wondering what AOG stands for, because we'll probably say it a lot today, it stands for Arts, Organisations and Groups. So we'll start with a reminder about the money parts of AOG, and then we'll go over what you need to submit with your application, and end with some answers to some questions that we've already been asked. So the Arts, Organisations and Groups Fund offers opportunities for a contribution to artistic and operational costs for arts organisations and groups with a dynamic vision for the arts in Aotearoa to deliver a program of work that makes a positive impact in their community or communities. The amount of funding you can apply for depends on which tier you apply to. Applications to each tier have different requirements. Check out our website for more information about this. AOG funding doesn't have to be tagged to specific projects, activities, or budget lines, and this will be new for some organisations. Although you might like to keep track of how you apply different sources of funding to costs for your own accounting and reporting purposes. We've indicated that offers of funding generally won't be more than 70% of an organisation's average annual turnover, and in many cases will be less than this. There's been some questions about tiers and funding levels. We'll answer that at the end of this webinar, but you can also check out the Finding Your Fit webinar on our YouTube channel, where the team talk through tiers and eligibility and the EOI. Why do we need this information? We use it to make sure that your request lines up with the program of activity that you've delivered, the impact you're making, and what you can deliver in the next 1, 2, or 3 years. That you've thought carefully about what's realistic for CNZ to be able to support, including considering how much you're asking for compared to what you need to make an impact. And that our investment is safe and a reasonable one. That your organisation is financially stable, well managed, and able to sustain delivery of your proposed program. Since AOG first ran in 2024, we've made applying much simpler. So for AOG 26, this means simplifying the financial information you need to submit. If you apply for Tier 2, 3, or 4 funding, you must submit 2 years of financial results, or 4 if your organisation runs on a biennial cycle. For everyone must submit 1 year of projections, or 2 if you're on a biennial cycle. You can submit both past result reports and future projections in your own format, but we recommend aligning them as much as possible to make it easier for our assessors to digest. We recommend submitting some commentary that explains how you've reached your projections, and we'll go into this more shortly. You have the option of submitting material that clearly and directly supports your projections. This could be relevant organisational policies or evidence like previous box office results. So this is for people applying to tiers 2, 3, or 4. For past results, you must submit your last 2 financial years reports, or 4 if biennial. So biennial being, if you're a festival that happens every 2 years, for instance. If the latest reports aren't finalised or audited yet, that's okay. Recency beats audited, but they should be signed off by your board or committee chair or equivalent. The set of accounts should include a profit and loss report / statement of financial performance, a balance sheet / statement of financial position, a statement of cash flows, notes related to those reports, and auditor's notes if applicable. Okay, over to you, Eva.
Okay, so all applicants must supply a budget or set of projections. For AOG, we ask for your projections at an organisational level, not at a project level. So think of it like the difference between how much you're going to spend at the supermarket each year versus your weekly shopping list. It doesn't matter if there's a gap between results and projections, but your projection should be for the next financial year that most overlaps with the calendar year 2027 as the first funding year for AOG 2026. This will give us 3 years of data to review. Projections should include the end-of-year financial performance projections and end-of-year financial position projections. Look, it is optional, but you can also submit a cash flow forecast that breaks down revenue and expenditure expectations by month. So when it comes to your financial performance results and projections, make sure assessors can easily see the revenue you have generated or will generate from providing goods and services. So for example, sales of tickets, merchandise, books, or programs. revenue you have generated or will generate from a range of funding sources, including CNZ. So ideally, we'd be able to see CNZ funding separately from other funding sources such as local government, central government, community trusts, or other funders. Revenue you have generated or will generate from fundraising. So this includes sponsorship, philanthropy, donations, etc. And ideally, these would be individually visible too. Now, in-kind support that you have received or anticipate receiving, but make sure that this is reflected in the expenses you anticipate too. When it comes to expenditure, make sure assessors can see easily the costs you have incurred or will incur when providing goods and services. So these are known as variable costs and are driven by your program of delivery. They include things like marketing and production costs or contract wages related to the program delivery. Overhead costs that you have incurred or will incur. So these are known as fixed costs and a cost you'll incur regardless of your program delivery. They include things like rent, insurance, utilities, depreciation, administration, and permanent wages or salaries. When it comes to demonstrating your financial position, so retrospectively or in projections, you should make sure assessors can easily see the kinds of current assets you did or will end the year with, the kinds of current liabilities you did or will end the year with, the kinds of non-current assets you did or will end the year with, and as you can probably guess, the kinds of non-current liabilities you did or will end the year with. So they should also be able to see the end result. This might be net assets, total equity, or total accumulated funds. What assessors will want to see when it comes to cash flow management depends on whether we're looking backwards or forwards. When we're looking backwards, we should be able to see how your organisation has used or made cash assets through your operating activities, through investing activities, and through financing. This is a standard part of financial accounting, so you will probably already exist on a set of financial reports for previous years. When we look forward, careful cash flow management is demonstrated by the scheduling of revenue and expenditure by month and the impact this has on your bank balances. It shows whether you'll have enough money to get through the year. Forward-facing cash flow projections are optional. Simone.
Thanks, Eva. And as we've said, we recommend providing some commentary with your financial statements so you can use it to communicate how you reached your projections. So for example, based on 30% houses or 10% growth on 2024 sales, reasons for any big changes between past results and future projections, which revenue sources are secure and which are not or yet to be confirmed, any plans you have for the coming year when it comes to cash flow. So again, for example, financing, investing, etc. Any risks or issues you've identified and how you plan to address them. Sustainability is important. You can plan for a modest surplus as part of sustainable practice, but CNZ funding should be used to deliver the agreed outcomes. Surpluses should be achieved through revenue generation, operational efficiencies, or other non-grant income, not unspent public funding or funds. So yes, be realistic and consistent. Think carefully about what you need to make an impact, but also consider what's realistic for CNZ to be able to support. Keep in mind that we'll be weighing up lots of applications against a fixed amount of money. Check that your narrative, your budget, timelines, and strategic documents all line up and do not contradict each other. Assessors should be able to follow the connections easily. Your budget should reflect the program you deliver, the impact you make, and what you can deliver in coming years. If your request is way out of scale with what you've done in the past or are currently doing, it won't be as strong. So it's important to note that we don't want organisations to think they have to say or do more than they are already doing simply to be considered for funding. And right, there isn't a magic number for what you should request. It's about what's right for your community and your organisation or group scale or kaupapa. So asking for the maximum amount doesn't guarantee you more, and asking for less doesn't make your application more appealing. What matters most is that your budget makes sense. Inflating budgets because you assume will trim the request, risks making your projections look inaccurate. And coming to fundraising plans, so we've also been asked about what we expect to see in a fundraising or revenue generation plan. This is required for organisations applying to those upper tiers of funding, so tiers 3 and tier 4. There's no set format for this. So like everything else, we want to hear from you in your own words. But in general, a funding plan outlines how your organisation intends to bring in income from from sources other than CNZ. Revenue generation plan does a similar job. It describes how you'll earn income through your activities, the things your organisation does that generates money. So neither need to be complicated. You know, the goal is to show that you have a clear and realistic approach to generating revenue and securing support. This is because we'll be looking to understand the extent to which your organisation has considered and planned for income diversification and financial sustainability. So, like I said, there's no right or wrong way to provide these documents, but in general, in a fundraising plan, you might include the types of fundraising you'll pursue, i.e. donations, events, campaigns, the audiences or groups you'll approach, the methods you'll use and the time frame you're working to or towards. And for revenue generation plans, you might include what your revenue streams are, how you will develop or maintain them, what assumptions you're working with, and how this income supports your organisation over time. Back to you, Hannah.
Thanks, Man. Okay, so we're going to answer some of the questions that we've had through already. So let's start off with an easy one. For tier 3, which is over $250,000 applications, and tier 4, which is over $500,000 applications. Do these financial targets apply to per financial year, or are they based on the total sum of a multi-year proposal? It's per year. Next question. If an organisation applies to the Tier 3 funding, which closes earlier than Tier 2 applications, and the Tier 3 assessors think that that organisation should receive a level of PUTIA level of PUTIA that would take their funding level to the Tier 2 category, which is down to 125, would their application then go to the Tier 2 round, meaning more assessment, or would they receive funding in the Tier 3 timeline? It's likely that some organisations will be offered less money than they apply for and potentially less than the tier amount that they applied to. But this doesn't mean that we'll put those applications through assessment for the new tiers again. So they won't be reassessed. It just means that those applicants will have different reporting requirements that fit the level of funding that they've been offered. People who apply to tiers 3 and 4 will be notified in late June/early July, regardless of how much funding that they've been offered. You can only make one application, so please think carefully about which tier you apply to. Pick the one that you are most confident about responding to. Okay, next question. If partial funding is offered, will there be an opportunity for us to revise what can be delivered based on the level of funding? Because we've shifted from funding activities to making a contribution to artistic and operational costs, this shouldn't be a problem. You can decide which activities you deliver to make the impact you've proposed with the funding offered. Next question. How likely is it that I'll get the amount I apply for? We can't predict this ahead of the applications coming in. Some groups might be offered what they ask for, others might be offered less, and some won't be offered funding. Because the overall budget is limited, we can't guarantee anyone the full amount or for the duration requested. What's most important is that you make a strong case for why the amount you're seeking in your budget is right-sized for what you do. And the next question is, what counts as income and does in-kind count? Income, revenue, or turnover are all words that mean money your organisation receives. It might be from funders, sales, sponsorship, donations, etc. It's the money, the pūtea. In-kind support counts, yes, because in-kind support is a way of paying for expenditure. So ideally, in-kind support is recognised on your financial reports. Sometimes organisations report on volunteer hours, etc. This will strengthen your projections because it will demonstrate that your in-kind support projections are accurate. Okay, back to you, Eva.
Righto, here we go. So, would it hurt my chances if I apply for the maximum? Should I apply for the maximum amount in maximum years? So we've covered this already, but what matters is the alignment and the strength of your application and the impact that you will make, not only the dollar figure. So showing that you've thought carefully about what you need will strengthen your application. It's also important to know our budget for this fund will be fixed and demand will be high. We're currently experiencing very high demand across all our funds and have only been able to offer support for 10% to 30% of applications recently. So even applicants who are offered support may not be offered the full amount or full duration, and some strong applications may not be able to be supported at all. But a strong, clear application with a right-sized budget will make your application more compelling. Next question, will CNZ offer me less if I ask for too much? Well, it's possible. If your application is strong and demonstrates real impact, but your request is higher than what we can support, you may be offered a lower amount. Okay, and how much detail do we need to include in our financials? Well, hopefully this has also been answered already throughout this webinar, but to emphasise, you don't need to provide project or activity level budgets for this fund. Projections should be at an organisational level and, where possible, follow a similar format to your past results. Next question, what kind of support material should we submit, especially for other sources of revenue? Okay, good question. Enough that we can see it's real. So for confirmed funding, you can include letters or contracts. And for likely income, explain the basis. So for example, past track record, applications in process, strong sponsor relationships. So when preparing your application, there are set questions that each tier needs to address and required information to provide. Make sure you have this before collecting additional information, because this is what we'll base our assessment on. Additional support material is optional, but be very thoughtful about what you include. Make sure key messages are clear and not diluted by irrelevant or outdated material. Please provide recent, relevant support material and clearly explain why you're including it so that assessors don't need to infer its purpose. After all, it's about quality, not quantity. All right, Simone?
Thank you, Eva. So to summarise today's webinar, AOG budgets are organisations' projections, not project. Keep formats consistent with your past results so assessors can follow the story. Submit the required financials, so 2 years of results, or 4 if biennial, and 1 year of projections, or 2 if biennial. Add commentary to explain assumptions, any gaps, changes, and risks. Check that assessors can locate the information they need. So it's important to show where income comes from, what costs are fixed versus variable, and how your financial position will shift over time. Be honest and realistic about what you need and what you can deliver. We don't want organisations to think they have to say or do more than they already are doing, simply to be considered for funding. Right size your request. There's no magic number. Strong alignment between your scale, your impact, the needs or opportunities you've identified for your communities, and your proposed budget is what strengthens your case. Support material is optional but not decorative. Include it only if it directly strengthens or evidences your projections. So yes, this is, where to find further information. So this is a lot to take in. And again, don't worry if you've missed bits, as we'll be uploading the recording to our YouTube channel in the coming days. You can find the recordings of our previous webinars also there too. And if you have any questions, we're holding our last live Q&A session this Thursday at midday. So please feel welcome to join us. Even if you don't have any questions, it's educational and informational to see what others have asked as well. So, and again, you can also email questions to Kōrero Mai at creativenz.govt.nz. The Big Idea did a great interview with our Senior Manager for Arts Development, Claire Murdoch, and so we also recommend giving this a read as well. We'll be publishing the assessment criteria for this fund later this month, which is great. And as with the rest of our current funds, these will not be extensive and will directly reflect what we've talked through today. Otherwise, all the information you need to start preparing your application, which includes that EOI, that expression of interest form, is on our website. And if you need specific advice, you can speak with one of our advisors through the booking service on our website. But please make sure you read the information on our website and watch those webinars first, so you get the most of your session, or out of your session. I apologize. It's a good idea, to be clear about the specific advice you need when you're completing the booking form. So our advisors can be prepared to help you make the most of the advice session. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you found our time together valuable. If your question hasn't been answered today, or if you have further questions, please don't forget to register for Thursday's Q&A session. And with that, take care over this festive season as well. And I'll close us off with a karakia. Unuhia, unuhia, unuhia I te uruta. Kia wātea, kia māma, te ngākau, te tinana, te wairua I te ara takata. Ko ia rā e rongo, whakairea ake ki runga. Kia wātea, ai rā, kua wātea, haumi e, hui e, tāiki e. Thank you everyone. Take care.